by GN and Co. Sure, Genge, welcome back to yet another episode of After School is After School with your girl, Sis G.U. To those that are at home, I hope that you guys are well. And to those that are passing by, all right, I hope you like what you see and you join the Genge, please. I hope you like what you see and you join the Genge, please. I hope you watch ya and you join the Genge, please. Guys, today, as you can see, I'm not alone. I am very excited for today's guest, for today's episode in general. I am with Tarri Parfitt. She is a purpose-driven leader at the helm of Smile Foundation, a nonprofit that is transforming children's lives through life-changing facial reconstructive surgeries. Before pivoting into the nonprofit space, she had been an actuary for 17 years, and she had co-founded a successful management startup. Her passion for purpose-driven leadership is shaped by her master's, which is in integrative health studies. Since stepping in as the CEO of Smile Foundation, she has strengthened the impact across 15 academic hospitals in South Africa. Beyond her executive role, Tarri is a self-fulfillment coach committed to social change and empowering individuals to face the world with confidence. Today, we dive into her journey and what it truly means to lead with purpose in the nonprofit space in South Africa. Tarri, how are you?
I'm excellent, Gugu. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for being here with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about today's podcast.
Of course. Genge, like I said, today we're going to be talking about the nonprofit space as well as purpose. So to kick us off, Tarri, in your definition, I want to know, what does purpose mean?
So that's a big question. It's not so easy just to formulate in one sentence. But I would say that purpose is a process.
Yes.
It's not an outcome. It's not something that you can just get to. It's something that it evolves over time, and it's deeply personal. I think it incorporates one's values and their childhood and what you've brought up to believe. But I think it's a motivation every day. So it's the thing that lets you know that you're on track.
In your bio, it speaks to the fact that you were an actuary for 17 years and that you had other business endeavors. And it's interesting to obviously see you now as the CEO of Smile Foundation. But before that, I kind of want to speak to your childhood. Is this something that you'd seen for yourself growing up? Is it something that you'd always been passionate about?
No, actually. I had this deep desire to succeed. That was always something that was very strong within me. And I try to choose the most challenging things. So I remember when I was little, I asked my mother, what's the most difficult instrument you can play? And she said the violin. And I was like, well, that's the one I want to play. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And then I was like, well, what's the most difficult career path I can choose? And that was being studying actuarial science.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why I was so interested in being challenged like that, but I just went with it. And being alone and doing formulas on a Saturday night seemed to be an amazing thing to do.
Yes.
I was embarrassed then to admit it. Now I'm quite proud.
Yes.
And I just went along with it. So I just picked whatever felt good. And I felt like I was in flow. And I was deeply motivated then by success and then money and being able to buy things I wanted and travel to places I wanted to go. And I did that for a long time. And I'm not sure if it was shaped by my peers and society, but it felt good for a while until it didn't. And then I realized that it wasn't making me happy at all. And I wanted something whole. I wanted something to nurture, and relationships became very important to me. And so I did a whole series of things that probably shaped where I am today. Like I did a past life regression, lots of woo-woo stuff. And I ended up going to Burning Man in Nevada 3 times.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a friend who went from high school 2 years ago.
Okay.
She loved it.
Yeah, I did too. It's interesting because it's a place where obviously there's a lot of like free love, but there's no money. So no money changes hands. And so you come as you are. You don't talk about your business and what your career. You talk about who you are and your passions and and how you show up in the world. People aren't interested in your day to day. And it really changed how I saw the world, and I wanted to connect with the world. And I think that was probably the beginning of this transition out of the business world into doing something meaningful. And then I got, I've known Mark Labner for a long time. He started Smile Foundation, and we got chatting, and that's how I ended up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a beautiful story. I love the idea of being in a space where your accolades don't speak for you, but more so you get to introduce yourself by who you are, your interests, and so forth. I think more people need to be challenged, because nowadays it's very easy to wear the things that you have as a badge of honor. Instead of just leaning into who you are and your own personal experience. Cool. So you're now at the Smile Foundation, and you are the CEO. And even hearing a bit of your story, it sounds as if you found more of your purpose through the work that you have done. I want to speak about finding your purpose in a career space, because I can imagine many people do struggle with that. When we think about purpose, we sometimes think about passion projects, or we think about anything and everything that is outside of actual work. How has that journey been for you?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's also interesting to see how other people view it. So I think that, a purpose, and I think a lot of young adults are looking for a career where there's a lot of purpose. And I'm lucky because my job, my day-to-day is that, there's a direct link to the work that I put in. Like when I was working in business, on a good day, I'd make more money. And now on a good day, I help more children. It's really direct and it's easy, but it's not often like that. And it's not like that every day. So in the microtia, in the details, it's hard slog. You don't see it all the time. There's the background stuff, there's dealing with people, there's dealing with politics, and you have bad days. And I think the part of your purpose and part of your goal maybe in life is to hone in on your skills and your discipline. And once you do that, you start to develop a sense of purpose, and I think it evolves, it changes. I don't think that you have one your whole life. Maybe there's a thread that runs through it, something that you can look back on. But a lot of the time, I mean, you can be at work, you can be in any work, any career, and just showing up, raising the energy, having a good attitude, uplifting your team around you might be enough. And that's okay. And that's okay in any walk of life. And then sometimes it's doing something direct, it's growing vegetables or helping children. And then that's a bonus. That's really great. But I think just being in flow and feeling motivated is a good way to know that you're on track.
Yes. I love something that you said, and I kind of want us to segue into this, and I thought I'd bring it in later. But the difference that I'm hearing is that when you were in your corporate job, you maybe felt as if the benefits were instant, in that you were getting the money, you were, meeting the clients, and there seems to be a slower gratification that has happened now that you're aligned with your purpose and in the work that you've done. And obviously saving children's lives is something that is amazing, but maybe something that people don't praise as much. And I want to speak about, I guess maybe it's more of a question, because I know that my generation struggles with this a bit, in that we don't really like to work for too long. We want the results of things to be shown immediately. And you speak to the beauty of maybe the benefits aren't harvested or reaped in that season right there and then. And kind of like, I don't know, the perception of the purpose that we have in comparison to what you have lived in your own journey. Yeah, I think my question, because I'm just kind of speaking, but my question is, with what you see society portrayed as, or rather, as with what you see purpose portrayed in this society now, what would you think? What are your remarks on that in general?
I love that. I love what you said, and you wrapped it up so nicely. What the generation of young adults are coming through thinking, and I really don't think that it's as a result of your generation. I think it is society. So I think what we bombarded with is brands and Instagram, and what it shows you is that, like, if you drive this car, you'll be this person. Or even like on Instagram, if you follow this eating regime and this exercise, you'll be this person.
Yes.
And they sell you that. And it's easy to be lured into this because it seems quick and as the instant gratification. But it's definitely not that. It's never going to be that. It takes work. It takes getting through obstacles. It takes, like, a really big thing that I'm really proud of is the work that I've put in to learn about myself. No one is going to tell you to do it. No one's going to say, oh, you need to learn about yourself. You need to understand what your desires are, what your likes are, what your interests are. You can study something and you can get accolades and you can get degrees and you can succeed in your career, but no one is going to say, oh, you've really got to sit back and think about who you are and discover what makes you tick. And I think that if you do that and you put in the work, that is where you actually end up being able to be a better person and be able to share your gifts with the rest of the world. So it seems initially like it's selfish, but it's not at all. It's the only way that you're going to be able to release your gifts to the rest of the world. And I think that as I mentioned before, it just is an evolution. It's a process. There's no outcome, and the outcome is the trick. You think, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to be that person. And you'd never know. You never know. It's often very abstract. And so it's reveals itself slowly, little bits through time. And then maybe it's not a straight line. Maybe you learn and then you take 10 steps back, and then you figure out from taking 10 steps back that maybe that wasn't the right way. So it's like a little game. And it's slow and it's frustrating.
Yes.
But it's beautiful.
Yes. I love the emphasis on the journey and not the destination.
Yeah.
And earlier you'd also mentioned that your purpose is something that can continuously evolve. I can imagine that when you had started your working career, you didn't see this for yourself. But now that you are here, it's something that's very fulfilling. I want to speak about the evolution of your purpose specifically, but also the evolution of the Smile Foundation from when you began to where it is now.
So maybe I should start with Smile. So Smile's 25 years old this year, which is an amazing achievement. I've only been at the helm for the last year. So there's been a lot of people that have made it happen. And 25 years for a business is amazing. For a nonprofit is incredible.
Yes.
And just like any 25-year-old, it's gone through ups and downs. And, it started off, it actually started off, there was a very tenacious young mom who had a daughter with total facial paralysis. And she was so disturbed by this condition. She wrote many letters to Nelson Mandela asking him for help. And one of the letters somehow got into his personal mail. And because she was from the Eastern Cape and he was from the Eastern Cape, he opened it. And he was so taken aback by the story that he reached out to Mark Lubner at the time and said, we've really got to help this child. And there weren't surgeons in this country that could do that kind of very technical surgery. And so they went to surgeons in America, and they came back saying that they were committing to not only helping children with this kind of condition, which is quite rare, it's Mebius syndrome, but cleft lip and palate and severe scarring from burns. And so there's a whole range of different surgeries that we do. And over the last 25 years, we've helped over 5,000 children and their families with psychosocial support. So it's been amazing. It's been a journey. But it's difficult because as a nonprofit, we have to rely on other organizations and other people. When you're a corporate and you make your own profits, you can kind of just go. You self-driven and you don't need to really rely on people. Maybe you need clients, but as a nonprofit, we have to we depend on the Department of Health. We depend on corporates. We depend on volunteers. We depend on people buying into our dream. And it's hard when interest rates are high and people don't have a lot of disposable income. There's 280,000 other nonprofits in South Africa. So they have to choose between those.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. People need help in South Africa. And so just from that perspective, it's quite difficult and also beautiful to be able to be incorporated into South Africa so deeply that we can rely on them. We can rely on the public and the corporates. And then in terms of my own evolution of my purpose, initially, as I mentioned, it was a lot of it was success.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my definition of success changed as I matured. And I'm so interested now in the human aspect. I'm so interested in what drives people and what connects people. And one of my big values is for everyone to have dignity and respect in any walk of life. And that's a really big driving force for me in what I do, because I want all the children that we have to have dignity and respect, and for them to achieve their own success.
Yes.
And when you've got a physical disability or you look different, it is so much harder. And so when we give these children these surgeries when they're young, you know, they're protected from the bullying that happens often later on. Children can be really nasty, and adults can be really horrible. And so they feel that they can be a working part of society, and no one will ever really know the difference, you know, when they have the surgeries when they're so young.
Yes.
And then they can be the next surgeon, the next president, you know, whatever they want to be. And I feel very strongly about equipping everyone with the opportunity to move into their purpose and allow them to thrive and fulfill themselves.
We've spoken specifically to the struggles that we faced or you faced within the evolution of Smile and your personal journey. To anyone that is listening at home who is on the journey of discovering their purpose, is there any forewarning that you could give them in the struggles that they may have in pursuing or finding their purpose?
I think my advice would be not to focus on purpose.
Ooh.
I think purpose is, I think it's a scary, very big, overwhelming term. I think I would say find something that you enjoy the process, first of all, that you don't really need to know why you are, you know, you don't have to question it. You can just say that, you know, what I'm doing feels good. You know, feeling good is a really great metric to assess whether you're on the right track. And then if you're not feeling good, to figure out if this is a short-term obstacle, which is difficult to figure out, or a long-term problem, and push through it, you know, dig deep. And it's getting through those dark moments that really shape who we are, so that we can rely on ourselves when things get really tough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's lovely. I think what I've struggled in my own walk is differentiating between purpose and passion. Is there any sort of difference between the two, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. I would say that passion is a feeling.
Okay.
So it's a short-term thing. It's something, you know, you can be passionate about dogs or cooking. You know, that's something that you can have right now, and it can change after reading a book or watching a documentary. You know, it's like, it's quite fleeting.
Yes.
You know, passion. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's important to have passion. But I think purpose is something much longer term. It's something that you work towards, and it reveals itself slowly over time. It's much more abstract, much more cryptic. And you may actually never know what your purpose is.
Yes.
And that's okay. I think there's a lot of uncomfortable uncertainty in purpose, which in itself is beautiful. You can kind of make it up.
Yeah, I think I like that. We're hyperfixated on purpose and like finding it. And I think the more you give of yourself into this journey, into life, the more you're bound to like reveal and show and feel. And I also like us using the metric of how you feel regarding something to let you know whether or not it's for you. And it can be hard to obviously tell, like, is this a momentarily thing, or is it something that I really need to pull away from? But I think deep down inside, you know, if this is just like a moment and I need to work past it, or if it's something that I need to let go of entirely. But with your work with Smile Foundation, like we said, it is the 25th year anniversary this year with over 5,000 surgeries. I wanted to ask about the impact. We know that through these surgeries, you've changed the lives of children and their family. But from your perspective, how has this work impacted you and the impact that you've seen it grow into?
Firstly, the impact is incredible. It is so multifactorial. I mean, you're helping a little kid that is that's maybe like 1 year old, and this is going to affect them for the next 60 or 70 years, so it's huge. And then it's not only them, it's also their families, because their families are really encumbered by a child like this, and so they often hide their children and they maybe don't send them to school. So it really frees the family up to be able to continue the work that they're doing. And then it also helps the community. So the community sees that there's a solution to this problem. And so it really does have this like multifactorial impact in a very wide reach. And maybe I can just share this one story. There's another organization that does cleft lip and palate surgeries all over Africa, Operation Smile. And they told me that there was this 74-year-old woman that arrived in Madagascar.
Okay.
So there was maybe no plastic surgery department or hospital in that area. And so this woman trekked very far to come for the surgery. And she was wearing a cloth over her face. And when she took it off, they could see it was a very bad cleft. It was a double cleft on both sides. And she had the surgery, and 3 days later, she looked 100% normal.
Oh, bless.
And she cried and cried and cried. And she said she has spent her entire life in hiding. And she probably didn't get married. She probably didn't have a job. It was really a wasted life. And that story just stuck with me for so long, because I was like, I never, ever want that to happen to our children in South Africa. I want them all to have the surgery that they need when they're young, and they can just live a very happy life, just like each one of us. So that was really impactful for me, and it made a big difference. In terms of my own personal journey, I'm learning every day. I'm being exposed to just the stories of these families and what they go through in order to make this provision for their children. They sometimes travel hundreds of kilometers away. They have to take leave. They have other children. And they come to the hospital, and they sometimes turned away because they cancelled, or the surgery is not happening because there's some problem in the hospital, and they come back multiple times. And these moms are just so committed to their families. They're the heroes actually. And then you see the little kids, and sometimes the little kids they look so deformed. They have no idea what they look like. They're still very small, and they are happy and giggling, and they want to play soccer with you. And they just remind you that you really are perfect. You think, oh, you've got like something funny on your teeth or your nose, and you are so perfect. And these little kids are just really inspiring, and they teach you that there's much bigger problems in the world. And if you just have a good attitude, and you can just smile and be grateful for what you've got.
Definitely.
It just changes everything.
Definitely. I think a heart full of gratitude is the best kind of heart to have, and it'll change your overall attitude. It'll make your day. Even when I'm having a bit of a tough day, I do this thing now where I will actively count the things that I'm grateful for to get myself out of that mindset to be like, you know what, Gugu, yes, we're upset about this, but there's so much more to be grateful for. And it ends up helping me a great deal.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yes. And I can tell that you get a lot of fulfillment from your work, and fulfillment from impacting these children's lives and their families. And earlier on, you spoke a bit to how hard it is to run an NPO, being that you're dealing with government, you're sourcing funding and so forth. But can we speak a little bit more to those challenges so people know what that's like? I'm interested from the from the perspective of Smile Foundation, but I'm also interested from the personal perspective. What does it take to run an NPO?
Yeah, that's a great question. So part of it is being able to having to rely on other people for funding. So every year we don't know if it's going to be a good year or a bad year. So there's a lot of uncertainty around that. But just in terms of the team, so we don't have the balance sheet to pay corporate salaries. So we need people just as talented. And so there's an element of sacrifice that you'd have to make to work in a nonprofit, to say, for the work that you're going to do, like there's value in that. And I'm prepared to maybe take a salary cut. Those are the kinds of decisions that we're asking people that work for us to make, also volunteers to do it for free. But the other thing which I think is actually very cool, is that if you work in a nonprofit, it would be very useful to be multi-talented. So we want somebody that can maybe be on a podcast and also do filming and also come to the hospitals and help with the coordination. And so having very many skills helps in a nonprofit, because it means that we can, we leverage off our team. And so we're a small team, but we can achieve a lot.
Yes.
So it really pulls out every last little bit of resource in every single person. And so those are some of the challenges that we deal with. So we want people that are prepared to be team players and to do whatever it takes, work on the weekends, and be at the events, be an ambassador for Smile, even on your day off, on your holiday. And so those are some of the unique challenges that nonprofits have.
As you're speaking, I'm realizing that as much as it can be a part of someone's purpose, it's also important that you have a passion for it. Yeah. And I think the passion can also drive you on the days where you may not feel like it, but because it is something that means a lot to you and you're cemented to the work that you're doing and the change that you're making in people's lives, it helps you get up each day. It helps you show up knowing that your work is highly impactful.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's an easy reminder. Sometimes I think in a corporate you get lost and you're like, what am I doing this for?
Oh, yes.
But we get reminders every day.
That's lovely. That is so nice. I have friends in corporate, and I was going to actually call corporate what they call it, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I can sense that there is a sense of longing for purpose, because even in these big organizations, they don't know where they fit in and they don't know what they're adding to per se. But I think it's so beautiful to be anchored in work that is constantly reminding you each and every day why you do it. And that is for a greater and bigger purpose. Yeah.
But there are challenges. I mean, there are days that feel like corporates.
Oh, yes.
And we're faced with the same thing where we have to man up and we have to do something that maybe doesn't feel so good.
Yes.
And you just hope at the end of the day that it's worthwhile. But I think we have those same kind of challenges on a micro level.
I think in life in general, there will be challenges no matter what you do, whether or not you're operating in your purpose and it's your passion. There will be days where it feels like work, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But I think that's where you just have to flex the muscle of commitment and showing up regardless. Thank you, Tarri, so much for your time. Thank you for what you've shared with us. I think on behalf of the Genge and those that are watching at home, is there any closing remark that you'd have just for anyone who is maybe in the process of finding themselves, finding what their purpose is, absolutely anything, really?
Yeah, I think that I think I'd like to say just whatever walk of life you're in, to stick it out. We need people, we need accountants, we need lawyers, we need people in nonprofits. Not everybody can do a job where it's so easy to see the impact. And I think that I would just suggest to stick it out and to find a way for you to express yourself and find your purpose. And it might just be showing up with a good attitude. It might be uplifting just one person in your team. And that's good enough. I mean, that's amazing. So continue to do that.
I love the examples that you gave there, because I think sometimes people think that if I am an accountant, like, am I really operating in my purpose? And you can do absolutely anything truly and be working in your purpose. So I love that. And that was very encouraging for me. And I know that it'll encourage the listeners at home. Guys, this is us. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope that you liked it. Below in the description, I will put all information pertaining to Smile Foundation, where it is that you guys can reach out, how it is that you can help and so forth. But Tarri, if there's anyone who's wanting to volunteer, help out, what is the process?
Yeah, so we've got a whole volunteer program, and at the moment we're rolling out a World Smile Day campaign for our 25 years at all the schools. So if you want to be a part of that, you can just go onto our website. It's smilefoundationsa.org. And there's contact us, and you can email or call us, and we'd love to have you as part of our team.
Yes.
Super.
Guys, thank you from us to you. We hope that you enjoy your day further. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to share this episode with your loved ones. Make sure to check out Smile Foundation. Have a lovely day further. brought to you by GN and Co.